Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the 9-time GSL champion, working on number 10, the Terran in the blue, the man, the myth, the Maru. Facing off against the fastest player in the game in the red, we have the Italian stallion. It's Reynor. In a best of 3, Terran versus Zerg showdown to determine who moves on and who's going home. And whether that's a painful drive or a long flight really depends on the outcome of this series. But either way, hopefully it's not too far between you and smashing that like button. Maybe even subscribe, help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Jimmy. 1,627 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the first lings and drones as the Reaper comes across the map. The initial flirtation / harassment that the Reaper always inflicts. And the Queen comes out to politely yet firmly drive the Reaper away. And also notable, in his first round of games, Maru went Marine first in pretty much every match. I think partially a respect for Reynor here, making sure... Okay, never mind. He just builds the third command center on the low ground, not even trying to hide it. In fact, he's trying to flaunt it. Just putting his third command center out there where everyone, including the Overlord, can see it. I know. Like, so, Reynor, he likely wasn't questioning whether or not Maru would build a third command center. Really, the only question was where he'd put it. And now that question is easily answered, as the Queen's driving things away to start. Zergling speed pulled entirely out of gas, maximizing those minerals early, but without Zergling speed, the amount of things the Terran can do to you, it's not a good time, alright? I don't want to get demonetized, so. Overlord slipping around. Flipping over. Barracks Factory, Starport, the Destiny Cloud Fizzed opener. I've heard it called in some hallucinations or fever dreams, but will there be Cloak on Maru's Banshee? Now, this map, Incorporeal, part of our new-ish map pool, the defining feature, well, a couple features, but one is the wall tower. This watchtower serves as a wall and kind of separates the map into lanes. And whether you're coming or going really depends on how quickly your units move. Also, there are some pseudo-island bases in the back corner where destructible rocks can choke them off. Of course, still very accessible by any sort of flying unit. And I haven't really seen any players actually take advantage of that. I am convinced there's only like 1 or 2 players that actually look at the maps before they load in the first time. Percival, but I digress. All right, we're not here to do cartography. We're here for pretty much a war documentary or sports commentary, depending on who you're talking to and what sounds more fancy. But a couple more racks on the way. Already a lair out of Reynor. About your most conservative time. He sees the starport. The question is whether he'll see the Banshee before the Banshee prevents him from seeing it. As he slipped it out around to the right side, the troops of Queens pushing away the Hellions. A Spore Crawler in an anti-Liberator positioning. In that back corner. Cloak done in 2 seconds. Very bold of the Banshee, but he knows what he has. He has a little bit more damage from the Queens for a moment. Spore Crawler gonna have to scramble away. To be careful not to get in the way of things. The Spore Crawler not for actually doing damage, but for angrily staring at things. Like I angrily stare at Jimmy and tell him, why haven't you disabled that? Apologies. Impossible to get good help nowadays. Like and subscribe so I can recruit. Mutas! Possibly the only player in the world who can make actual use of them. Literally the hundreds of APM it requires to make mutas not a flying liability is unrivaled. Reynor is the only player I've seen make mutas work in a way that actually looks like a real strategy as opposed to a desperation move. I've literally seen him go from 600 to 800 average APM in controlling mutas. And, well, that might sound like, get off my creep! No, not now. I know. Banshee taken down, which will help. The Spire unscouted, and it's so rare nowadays. I think Maru, it's not even going to be entering his mind. And what really should be entering the production tab are mines, because against Mutalisks, a siege tank push significantly less powerful. Obviously, tanks don't shoot up this patch. Can't fly them around with medevacs. We can, but makes it difficult. Hellions working their way forward, but Reynor has done a good job of masking this thus far. This just looks like the sit back and rush to hive sort of strategy that everyone, and arguably their brood mother, has been doing for most years now. At least 3 or 4. But 7 mutas on the way. Not a single missile turret back at home for Maru. He's adding on 3 more racks. Going for the Octo Rags timing, but he already has 68 SCV, so he's not fully committed. 4th command center's on the way. So Maru is just building up towards a very strong mid-game push. But Reynor might be able to dismantle it with the power of the Mutalisks. The big risk here is just getting run over by the Marines. Mutas are not fighting units. They're for stabbing from the sky into the back of your mineral line and making the lives of the SCVs either difficult or very short. Marine drop coming in, gonna start targeting the base. More than enough Zerglings in order to drive it back in. Maru has already moved away. 4 SCVs dead. Double drop into the main base as Maru taking this in stride for now. 7 SCVs is the only cost so far. And the medevacs overhead. Lings and Banes, more than enough. Reynor has taken map control. The Queen's in position. Maru scrambling back. Queens take down one of the medevacs and another one. Still holding strong. Gonna sacrifice some of the Queens, but so far Reynor has handled this beautifully. 13 SCVs dead. He's building more Mutalisks so far. And Reynor has taken control of the game. That is what mutas are designed to do. That's what they're supposed to do, and that's what so often they are unable to do. Because players, well, getting enough units on the ground to deal with the Marines and and controlling the mutas in a effective manner simultaneously is immensely difficult. Not even Reynor's teammate Cyril regularly uses them. But here we are. The mutas swinging around. He's got 15. I think that's the perfect number. Not just because I love seeing mutas. They're my favorite unit in the game, and I'm completely unbiased. But 15 mutas with +1 attack should be enough to one-shot Widow Mines, medevacs, easily take out Marines in small numbers. If you get too many, they become a liability. That's over 30 supply. Well, it's 30 supply right now, but any more adds to it. Didn't get to see the full volley. But just enough mutas to completely shut down any sort of small drops or counter-harassment without cutting too far into the main army. Speaking of main armies, though, we got Maru. He's gone right down the center. I love that choice with the 4th command center, but so many banelings. Here comes Reynor swinging in with the mutas from the north side. Gonna be able to pick off some of the siege tanks. Loses a muta or 2, builds 4 more. Maru diving deep onto the creep. Oh no, the destructible rock tower. He'll take it down in order to cut off some of the attack angles, but it will cost him the front side of the push. Maru going to be using that high ground as a staging area. Has to be careful to leave enough back in order to protect the siege tanks. But Reynor, he doesn't even have 1-1 upgrades. On the ground, he's up against 2-2 Marines, and he's working on 3-3. So right now, Reynor, his army might be maxed out, but it pales in comparison to the direct fighting power of Maru's Marines and his tanks. So Reynor, instead of taking this head on, he's going to try to give him the swing around here. As the mutas swinging in, fighting the Marines heads up. That's a mistake. Loses half a dozen. Meanwhile, though, the Zerglings will surround the Marines. Not exactly a great trade for the Lings, but a trade nonetheless. And he's at 89 drones. The mutas swing in to capitalize on the situation. Meanwhile, Maru moving forward, knowing the mutas aren't going to be coming back anytime soon. Lings and Banes. 2-2 versus 1-1 upgrades. That's as good as it's gonna get for Reynor right now. He's working on +2 Carapace. +2 flyer attack. He's adding more and more mutas. What a tense defense game to open things up. Good old-fashioned Mutiling Bane versus Marine Tank. Adrenal glands on the way. First priority is Hive complete. Nothing else right now. What did he get? No Ultralisk Cavern. The Mutas. Now 17 of them. Pick off a siege tank on the high ground. Marines darting forward. Zerglings at the back. Trying to tear down the wall. And so far, Mr. Zergachev, it's going to be enough. The depots will fall, but a lot of the Zerglings cut down. Mutas swinging in to help reinforce yet again. Zerglings in the third base. Maru scrambling all the way back to defend. He's taken all the pressure off Reynor on the other side of the map, and the Mutas are still ransacking the main base. I can't help but think Maru is at a loss for how to deal with this directly. And now, with an Ultralisk Cavern in production. Ooh. He popped over to the other side. Reynor actually expanded down the center. The watchtower wall was not enough to stop Maru from getting a hold of it. Gonna lose a few more Mutas. 14 SCVs dead. Maru still at a healthy number. 73 of them. Takes out the sensor tower. The drop still going. Slides around to the right side. Banelings rolling in. Maru looking the other way. And most of the Marines will be melted. +3 infantry weapons and armor are completed. 14 SCVs may be dead, but Maru replaced them with boots on the ground. Adrenal glands about to complete. 5,000 minerals, 1,200 gas in the bank for Reynor. But Maru maintains a strong army. Here's the thing. His army is not going to get much better without ghosts, without liberators. He's now maxed out on infantry upgrades. Reynor's catching up. He still has 4 or 5 bases of mining. In fact, the income is going all towards Reynor, even more so over the last few minutes. The Mutas continue to cut off any exposed units. There's 92 Zerglings and 42 Banelings, which could solve a lot of your problems on the ground. Does he have burrow? No. Chitinous plating is on the way, though. Creep has been driven back quite well. Maru's done a great job focusing towards that bottom left corner. But now, he's going to have to actually press through. The Muta's fighting the missile turrets, enough SCVs to repair. Eventually we'll grind through it, but a whole bunch of overlords are dying here. The unsung heroes, and now won't be singing at all. 191 over 160 supply. The Muta's fighting a hero missile turret. The missile turret has 5 kills. Every single one of the most efficient missile turret, but the Zerglings in the natural. Banelings rolling in to finish what the Mutas started, and much more effectively. Mutas helping rip down the wall to the high ground. Drilling Claws is on the way. He tries to, I think he tried to burrow there. Some of the Banelings on the ramp, it's not going to happen. Reynor rebuilt the Overlords. He had plenty of money. 5 Ultras in production. And Maru scrambling back to defend. They're Baneling mines all over the place. Some Zerglings burrowed as well. He's going for the Drilling Claws. Thors have been mixed into the army. The old anti-air platform where the Marines aren't enough. But Maru still has the army, but with the Ultras on the field, this is a massive problem in every sense of the word. There are no ghosts. There are no liberators. There's not that many marauders. Maru needs to deal with this. The Widowmine's trying to drag him out onto the Marines, but cutting down so many. Casual siege tank cut to pieces. And there are Queens with the army to potentially heal up some of the Ultras as well. More mines crushing through. Ultralisk takes a hit. Where are the Queens? Are the Mutas all dead? But they will be remembered. 30 Mutas. I'd be surprised if we see any more. If there's going to be anything more at this stage, it's going to be Corruptors. Maru somehow finds the money for 3 more command centers. He's maxed out. Reynor's bank is draining, but he still has plenty. Another hatchery down. Banelings rolling in. Bio Ball rolling out. You can't explain that. Now, Widowmine. Oh, big chunk down the center. But Reynor has finally caught up in upgrades. They're both maxed out. +3 Carapace. I take it back. +3 melee is still a couple minutes away. But +3 Carapace is now completed. These are fully operational Ultralisks. What again? Ultras coming in the left side. Meanwhile, Maru battling on the right. Banelings rolling through. Zerglings underneath. I don't know how many Widowmons are underneath. A few more dragged out. The Ultras are chewing through at the 9 o'clock base. Brings a few SCVs off the line to help, but there's no reinforcements. The SCVs will be cloven in twain alongside the Planetary. Reynor takes down a base relatively cheaply. Well, it didn't cost him anything yet. Maybe loses an Ultra here, but Maru has to scramble back to defend. He's almost out of gas. He doesn't have that many minerals. Reynor still has the economy, embodying the Zerg right now. He's lost 300 Zerglings, only a couple Ultras, but he just keeps Maru back for long enough to rebuild the army again and again and again. Drilling Claw's never finished. The Mutas took it out the first time. He's gonna finish it now, finally. Without Drilling Claws, those Widowmines don't remain cloaked after firing. He can't burrow down quickly. It's clearly hurting here, but the Ultra count is so damn high. Three more Ultras in production. A bit of an odd angle. He hits the planetary down the center. The Bio Ball micros back behind the Marauders. Takes out a couple Ultras. Make that 3. Going for 4, but the Banelings making it much more difficult. But somehow Maru's supply stays near even in these fights. Well, remember, when a Baneling attacks, it dies. And these Ultras are not doing this cheaply either. But Maru... Now, Reynor might not be able to recognize this, though he probably suspects it. Maru's running out of minerals. He's running out of gas. He's been firing on all cylinders, but if you fire too quickly, you burn out. And right now, but he has to keep the pressure. He can't let Reynor go. Damned if you do, and even more damned if you don't. How many Ultras? 8, 10, 11 Ultras on the field. But the Bio Ball's rolling in again. A single Liberator in production. A Ghost Academy. A distant dream. The Marauders obliterate another hatchery. That's 6 of them so far. Widowmine, Liberator overhead. SCVs might be enough to actually hold this, but the Banelings come in! And he saves a few of the SCVs. He won't save the planetary, but he'll make it cost Reynor. Maru desperate to get any mining going. He's at 40 SCVs and dropping fast. Siege tank holding the watchtower. Reynor still mining. Wait, what? Another Spire? Did he forget about this? Oh no! Reynor may have forgotten. This is one of those games that's so hectic, he may have forgotten he had a Spire. Wow. And it hasn't been that long since the death of the Age of the Muta. But he's rebuilding one. He has another Spire that's idle. There's no reason not to have one. Besides, literally, it's just so tense right now. But the Zerglings diving in. What a game. Ultra's trying to move around that watchtower wall, creating such a dramatic... He's building Corruptor! I mean, he has the money to potentially... There's really no reason to go double Spire, but it doesn't matter. Another hatchery down. Maru's holding on. That siege tank adding some damage. The Marauders eviscerated by the Ultralisks. The Widowmine's getting maximum damage before being taken out themselves. I can't help but feel that Maru's momentum is waning, whereas Reynor is overrunning the field. The Ultra's cleaving through, but Maru still has an army to be reckoned with. 140 supply of army to 120. Reynor can't get any more without starting to break some of the mathematical rules of the game. A single Infestor on the way. A Cyril Fester. That could potentially hold them all and allow the Ultras to cleave through. But the Corruptors are being added in to sweep the Liberators from the skies. As well as the Medivacs. Maru has kept up, but feels like the Ultras, as they rarely are, but in this case, clearly demonstrating their value. 15 Medivacs for Maru. The Medivacs for all policy, but it gets a little easier to enforce when there's so few units left. But here come the Ultras, literally fighting up to the high ground. The Banelings rolling through. Maru micros back. Hard to tell with all the Medivacs in tow. The Liberators taking a toll over the top. Widowmine connects. Fungal from behind the army. Cleaves through. Maru dips 60 supply. And with it, the game. Reynor takes game number 1. A commanding victory after a tense and incredible back and forth. But Maru could not break him. He killed 7 hatcheries, 600 Zerglings, 15 Ultras, 30 Mutas. But Reynor kept the momentum. He kept his economy throughout all of it. Actually, amusingly, at the very end, Maru with enough mules took the income back. But overall, you could see Reynor mined 10,000 more minerals, 7,000 more gas, and he used almost all of it. Pretty much broke at the end, but Maru broke in. As we go to game number 2. Don't know how we're going to top that, but nerd geostasis. That I don't know if it's painfully nostalgic or optimistic, but that game reminded me of the games of old. The Muta, Ling Banling against Marine Tank. We didn't see any Ghosts or Vipers. Corruptors, a fleeting appearance. Widow Mines, an auxiliary one. Both these players, Maru historically, or at least not historically, but recently has kind of, I don't want to say devolved, but I don't want to not say devolved into that sort of turtle Terran. And it's a high percentage play, getting a bunch of ghosts, sitting behind your planetary fortresses, getting angry at the illegal aliens knocking on your door. But while Maru usually reminds me of home, but not today. He went toe-to-toe. Unfortunately, the Ultras have very big toes. And if you'd like to see more, subscribe to my Dronely fans. Patreon link in the description. I was thinking so much about the past. I neglected to notice in the present. It's a pool first out of Reynor. 6 Zerglings. And I don't know if it's better or worse. I think this is actually worse for Reynor, that Maru has gone for the low ground here. So, oh, it's a magnet. This will turn into a magnet. Okay, it will draw the Marines away. Thing is, though, even if the Marines are caught out... Oh, no. Well, the Overlord may die, but the Zerglings are gonna slip in. And the barracks will not be able to land in time. Unless... No, go! Where are you going? The Zergling! The SCVs are pulled. Even a mule, that's how you know it's serious. Oh, wow. Maru handled that perfectly. That was just like a non-issue. And Reynor, he's got a roach worm behind it, but that, almost nothing happened, which is the worst possible outcome for Reynor. Yes, Maru pulled in a bit of a panic those SCVs off the line. But, did he? Yeah. The only thing that's died so far is the Overlord. So, the problem here is look at the drone count. 17 drones for Reynor. That is not a booming economy. That is barely an allowance. It's enough to build this amount of roaches. He needs to do damage. He is required to do damage. He doesn't necessarily have to win the game with this push, but that would certainly be the best possible outcome, obviously. A single Hellion microing around. He's actually interesting. Maru has his own suspicions. Yeah, he's definitely suspicious. He did not flip over to the reactor, but instead, he's sticking with the tech lab on the factory. He didn't commit to the bunker, which means he wasn't 100% sure what he's dealing with, but, well, here we go. The roaches breaking down the wall. They will get through. The cyclone will come out. He locks on. Might be able to kill off one of the roaches. Killing the Cyclone would make this a lot easier, but Reynor in a weird spot. He's building drones, which is... He really wants to do more damage than that. Oh no, the Cyclone just pops a Ravager in a single lock-on. A few SCVs down is nothing in comparison to holding this. Wow, Maru. Maru playing this perfectly. Reynor completely stuffed here. And now has to tuck his little roach tails between his little roach legs and head on home. As the Cyclone gets a good look. Wow, knocks out another roach, slurps everything up again. Perfect micro from Maru. Using the Marines as sacrificial cover to make sure... Oh, another snipe! Oh my! Wow! Maru! Just running literal circles around him. And so... This is a disaster. It's an absolute disaster for Reynor. He's losing drones. He's already lost all of his initial units, so he can't even rely on them. The queens are pulled off the line, away from the hatches in order to desperately try to defend. And he's not going to kill the hatchery. Knock on creep, but... it's bad. It's bad. This Maru third command center is on the way. Four more drones dead. Reynor does not have a lair. He does not have any upgrades. There's no... Right now, you just kind of stay the course. You know you're behind. You hope that Maru messes up. There is no attack he can do anymore, not with the Banshees out. The Lings, no matter how little health the Banshee has, no matter how many wings the Zerglings grow, they can't fly high enough to take it out. Lair's on the way. So... This is one of those stages where Reynor just has to play super greedy and just hope Maru messes up. He's too far behind to try and all-in. It would just fail. The Banshees would pick it apart before the lair. Like, there's no anti-air, so. But there's a chance, and every Terran will tell you how good Banelings can be. And it's true. So, if the drop goes horribly wrong, then Reynor can be right back in it. That's why he's 65 drones, building some Zerglings, but just playing like he's in an even money game here. That's a lot of Marines. And the Cyclone, with all its experience. Maru doesn't have upgrades, he doesn't have combat shield. The Queen's taking big hits. He boxes out for now, but the Banshees are back. And, even working on... Like, there's a chance he just kills the Evo chamber here. Chasing it down. Massive graphical glitch is how fully this is... Get off my creep, Brenda! You're not really in a position to take such a strong stance. Which is why I'm taking one. And, that's what Sun Tzu said. Who? He was a the only good Terran, Susan. And, sorry. I know. Blacked out for a moment. 133 to 111 supply. Reynor finishes his upgrades, which is something. Combat shield now done for the Marines. A couple tanks, 4 medevacs overhead. It's not good. Siege tanks wailing on the base. Hatchery goes down. And one thing you desperately need with Zerglings and Banelings, this sort of composition, is larva. You get larva from hatcheries. If you want to be pedantic, technically you also get it from queens, but hatcheries are very much involved. And losing that fourth hatch severely cuts into Reynor's ability to keep up when it comes to production. And that's why it's 155 to 128 supply. Siege tanks continue. Another double drop heading for the secondary base. Maru goes in a little bit too far. The Queen's going to take out some of the medevacs. Zergling scrambling back. Right. Maru in the natural. The double drop is anchoring a lot of the units away, and Maru cuts down a few more drones. The Zerglings and Banelings wander into siege tank range. He was trying to cut off some reinforcements. Maru opens up a 50 supply lead. Reynor gonna try to crush this. But at what cost? Positioning on the tanks. The siege tanks are taken out. The medevacs taken down. And the double drop. 2 Gs. Maru strikes back. Reynor's ill-fated attack shut down like a blue screen computer. And now he tries to struggle onwards, but we're going to end up having to restart either way. So, Maru with the equalizer. Game 3. It all on the line. One more game to determine who will survive in GSL to move on. Which would be historic for Reynor. Reynor, who's attempted GSL multiple times. And got humbled, I think, is how I'll describe it. All of those times. But now finally broke through his group. To move on to the next round and now facing off here. Reynor has not been as active lately. Some might argue that the league he's currently in is Legends, but I think he's proven that otherwise. Meanwhile, Maru, the same. Like, the last 6 months or so have been not great for Maru. Pretty much since GSL ended last year. He has not put up results that you really associate with someone who was once in the same conversation as Cyril for the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. Feels like GSL just gives him like a buff that makes him 30, 50% strong. 30%. I don't go with 30. Let's be, with our theoretical, hypothetical, made-up numbers, we're going to say 30%. Reynor goes pull first with gas. He's like, you know, the issue was I didn't commit as hard as I needed to. All right. This is a Roach Island, right? I guess it could be speed. But not like a few Zerglings, then Roaches. Like straight to Roaches. Maybe not. He's acting like it's speed, so. That is, wow. Taking the place of Dark, who, just a few days ago, if you're watching this on the day it comes out, announced his military service finally. I mean, it was hanging over, well, I'd say all of our heads, but obviously he's feeling it the keenest. But that is why Dark was not in this season, nor next season of GSL. Hopefully there will be a GSL in a couple of years when hopefully he decides to come back. No, there's a lot up in the air right now. What I'm saying is, this reminds me very much of Dark. It's like, oh, so the issue with my all-in wasn't the all-in. It was that I didn't commit hard enough. And here we go. Reynor with Zergling speed on the way. He's making some more lings. Maru is very aware of the timing. He saw when the hatchery finished. He's going to see the gas count. But how does Reynor follow this up? Like, he's just behind if he doesn't do anything. You can't just go Zergling speed and macro it out. Lair. Oh, Dark. He lives on. I mean, he's just doing his military service, which doesn't necessarily mean, like... Anyways. Nidus? He can't afford Mutas. It has... It's a German taxi build? But why the lair? For creep drop? Oh, don't be dumb. You need the lair for the drop. But still. Winter. It's been so long since we've seen something of this exact variety. This is a lot to gamble.
Brenda, it's gonna all be on us. Susan, it's always on us. The Zerg would do nothing without us. We really need to work on that negotiating position. Not now. Save it for the next Hatchery Owners Association meeting. But Karen will be there. Solidarity, Susan.
Sorry. Okay. Wow. He's committing everything. His entire GSL career is on the line and just got scouted by the Hellions. Wow. Okay. Double bunker on the way. The alarms are going off. Maru is putting everything he can together on defense. He knows this is coming, but he doesn't know the magnitude of the danger. He has nothing in the main. He has failed to account for the possibility of Zerglings inside his base. He's gonna drop right until the bunkers aren't done yet. He's going to finish at least one of them. The Queen's at point-blank range. The Zerglings trying to break through the front. A bit of an awkward scenario, but they break through the engineering bays. One of the Queens gets transfused. A dozen SCVs dead. The bunkers ripped apart. Maru tried to defend the low ground, and now he has nothing left to defend at all. The Italian Stallion has done it. He's broken through, and he's broken out. 2-1. Reynor moves forward. Wow. What a way to do it. Just the commitment, I don't think Reynor's one to shy away from such dramatic strategies. But wow, he really went for it on that one. And it pays off. Showing he can play the long game and the very much not so long one. That brings us into our bonus series. Another Zerg versus Terran. Rogue versus ByuN. This one, now, congratulations to Reynor. I'm not sure. I've been very much trying not to spoil myself on GSL more than, like, you know, knowing who's playing. So. And these are anti-spoil. If we have a series that's under a certain threshold, even if it isn't like a clean sweep, I like to add, in case, I'm hoping that whatever clickbait or, well, not clickbait, but whatever sort of dramatic title got enough people watching that they're wondering what's happening now. Sometimes, not every time, Jimmy will add a anti-spoiler series or game in order to make it less obvious how the outcome of the series is going to go, whether in terms of who wins or game time in general. Because you can't just add a bunch of empty video at the end of a video, like some people used to do back in the day. Because YouTube shoves content in front of your face. Most people, maybe not you, who's subscribed and actually looks at the subscription feed, based on how actively they're watching it. So if somebody watches 30 minutes out of a 1-hour video because the rest is black screen, well, YouTube ain't gonna like that. So, speaking of like, or maybe even subscribe. So I think this has been the happiest balance. And it lets us see spoilers, I guess, on this. Some shorter games, shorter series. Because not every sort of game or series. In fact, it's outliers. Those 20-minute sort of games. The average pro game depends on the matchup, but I'd say the average pro game is 9 or 10 minutes long in StarCraft 2. You're very much seeing the outliers when it comes to the very best of the best. There's probably every week there's a couple dozen pro games of the top players, not just in general. Obviously, they're playing maybe less accomplished players through tournaments. And you're seeing like 4 or 5 of those series, maybe 6, depending on how much of the week we're doing, but it's the 1% of the 1%. And speaking of, 2 world champions as our bonus, which is kind of an odd place to be. So what this spoils is that Rogue doesn't get to do his mass overseer strategy. I think very likely. Rogue and ByuN both go back and forth between being late game turtle gods and very all in nerds. Rogue very publicly beating Maru with his mass roach all in style like 4 times in a row to rip away multiple GSL finals. ByuN has been the only player directly credited with getting a race nerfed. Though I think we can directly credit Cyril, it's just not been explicitly said for Zerg. But the reason the Reaper was nerfed was unequivocally because of ByuN. Not once, but twice. And you can see those videos from back in the day, how we used the Reapers when they had more damage on the grenades, lower cooldown. So, both these players with quite a history, almost rivaling Maru, arguably surpassing it. But that's an argument we could have for many years, and I'm glad we do, because at least it keeps people going. What the? Mech? I'm sorry, wait, is that Gumi? No, it's ByuN! I'm lacking the understanding here. He's taking us to McDonald's? He's hiding the factories like they're in the very back of his base, clearly trying to keep him away from any sort of overlord or shenanigans. What? There has been, every few months, Gumiho has proven to be the most prescient player in StarCraft 2. Alright, Gumiho, the only Terran player who's willing to try new strategies. Even if they don't necessarily work out, they usually inspire some sort of branch or variant that Terrans will break out now and again. And usually it's some sort of mech play. Is this going to be the Hell Clones? Indeed. Couple Cyclones, Mag Field, Accelerator. That 50% more lock-on damage. This is an absolutely infuriating strat to deal with until it gets shut down completely. You're reliant on very what? Rogue! Brenda! They're just chilling. Blue Flame is also on the way, so full commitment to the... Okay. I was wondering if he actually walled him in, but he's got it all set up. He's worked this out. And Rogue... he has no idea. Absolutely no vision of anything related to this. He built spore crawlers, indicating he's not sure about starport units. He's got a bunch of lings and banes. He does not have a roach warrant. Without a roach warrant, even though lings and banes can make it work, it's the blue flame Hellions covering for the Cyclones. The Cyclones lock on to anything meaningful and can target it down, and the Hellions just cut the wheat from the chaff. And of course, then the Cyclones come in and scythe down the wheat. Bunch of banelings on the way, but baneling speed's still pretty far off. The Cyclones have arrived and begun. The Clone Wars have. Locks onto some of the queens. A lot of damage. Doesn't even have mag field yet, though. The Zergling counter. Gonna get incinerated. Charbroiled. The queen line is holding, but breaking quickly as the energy runs out for transfuse, and Rogue is supply blocked. He has slow banes. He's trying to close in, gets a couple of the Hellions, but Hellions only cost minerals. He can easily replace them. Rogue getting bamboozled and now roasted. The banelings trying to wrap around, probably going to get a few more Hellions. But it's the Cyclones that are building up in number, making life way more difficult here. And Rogue already down 20 supply against a unit composition. It's very difficult to beat with even. I think he's dead, Jim. This is not a unit composition you can just counter with Wingbane. Rogue did not have the scouting curiosity to try to figure out why ByuN was sitting in his base so long. And it's gonna cost him. He's behind on workers. ByuN's taking a 4th base. He's got +1 plating. So both Blue Flame and the Cyclone lock-on add flat damage. They can't be buffed by upgrades. So plating makes sense in order to just make sure they survive longer to execute all that. And execute indeed he is. It's a disaster. Rogue is super dead. Oh, wow. Making it look... And this is... you need to know this is coming before it hits. You can't just kind of hedge your bets with Lings and Banes. It does not... Honestly, that's part of the reason so many players will go Roaches. As like a mid-game option. Instead of just going straight Ling Bane. There's always the option of something like that happening. But... he pulled one over. I'm not sure how many more times he's going to be able to pull that off. We'll see. ByuN has played too many 30-minute games against Rogue to let him get that far as well. I'm not surprised. Especially, I want to add an extra level of intrigue. Because these two, not only have they played, like, maybe hundreds of times in their career, they've played, like, 12 times in the last few weeks in online tournaments in smaller scale matches. And I think Rogue has pulled his weight on him. He hasn't necessarily won all of them, but... And ByuN has not gone mech once. You would have seen a clickbait. I guarantee you would have seen that match if ByuN had been going for Hell Clones, going for mech. So he's held that in his pocket. And he pulls it out like a bunch of pocket sand, and behind the pocket sand are upgraded Cyclones, which is even worse. Wow. The classic bamboozle. To great effect. ByuN 1-0. And does he do it again? I want more mutas. Okay. My guilty pleasure is enjoying mutas. Even Reynor could only make them work for so long. But, that's my bias. Is the original reason I started playing Zerg so much, and now I'm only 1/3 Zerg myself, but for a while, playing Zerg almost exclusively. It's because of creep spread and mutalisks. Alright, the two most Zerg things. My humble and very modest. A lot of people say I'm the most humble and modest YouTuber out there. A lot of smart people, because they're in the YouTube comments, so they have to be. But mutas and creep spread. Unfortunately, nowadays, both those things are not as prevalent or relevant as they once were. Creep spread is no longer... So, creep spread spreads twice as quickly almost, and recedes twice as quickly. It has for over half a decade. That was a pretty big change a while ago. The idea being it's more of an interactive, but it's less difficult to get creep spread out there, but it's also less difficult to drive it back. So that part of it has been kind of... I don't know if it's been minimized, but it's less relevant, I guess. And mutas just in general Players, timings, economy, too good, very simply, at dealing with it. Like, mutas are a huge expense. You gotta pay for the spire. You gotta wait for the mutas. It's a couple minutes from investing in the spire to getting the mutas out. And those couple minutes are usually the difference between them building up marines and then flying across the map with medevacs and stim. And a lot of the time, you don't get that opportunity. And that's why, and of course, against Protoss, everyone and their mother opening up a Stargate. Literally every game. So, there's already that built-in option for Phoenixes, as well as constant scouting via Oracle. It's just almost impossible to get to mutas, have them show up and be effective without already suffering near critical damage. And that's why players like Reynor, at over 10 actions per second, are able to make them work. And almost no one else, including Cyril, even bothers, unfortunately. Wow. He just goes for it again. And ByuN is going for the double NG back. He's not trying some sort of mech or even a bio-curious build. Nope. Straight up. Stim Marines. Siege tank on the way. Lair. Quite late. He went for double upgrades before Lair. So that means quite a delay on anything else. I feel like this is going to end up being the straight to hive sort of style. The focal point will be the 4th base. The double cloak Banshee. Wait, did he actually go cloak? No. Uncloak Banshee. The triple Brenda bounce. Zerglings in the 3rd. There should be reinforcements. But he gets a couple SCVs. That's something. Driven back a bit. Baneling nest on the way. Reaper Hellion keeping the creep spread pushed back. Just very disrespectful to the queens, but they don't demand much respect on their own. Overlord taken down. Hydralisk Den. Infestation pit on the way. Oh, we're angling towards hive tech. Lurkers then. The Banshee's still sharking around, and with nothing, no anti-air on ByuN's side of the map to contest them. They're always great on defense or poking around the edges. First Marine push headed out. Siege tank added in. The Queens. I think they caught a glimpse. Combat shield finishing mid-fight. 1-1 going to be done momentarily. Rogue actually has an upgrade advantage. He's going to be 10-15 seconds ahead. Oh, he's going to be even more ahead when it comes to 2-2, because ByuN's armory is a bit on the later side. The Hellions don't care too much about those Zergling upgrades. Hive is on the way. 7.5 minutes. Actually, a little before. Where's the Lurker Den, Rogue? Takes a little bit less time than the Hive to finish. Still doesn't have it started, though, interestingly. Not sure if that's a mistake or if he's just Hydra Ling Bane Viper. We'll see. But the siege tank on the low ground, I think, can actually hit the extractor if he has the vision. The Hellbat's holding the line. Queens also doing their part. Going for the hard depot wall here, but the supply closet isn't enough to keep the Zerglings out for now. The Banelings zoning out the Marines. Siege tank gonna help out. ByuN microing back, eats a hit. 11 SCVs dead. 17 of them. He clears the vast majority of the 3rd base. The siege tank's helping with the rest. 22 SCVs slaughtered. ByuN still has the double tier push going. The Queen's holding. The Hydra's a little behind. They finished their rage upgrade so they can kind of fire over the top. But this is an incredibly hard position to dislodge. Thing is, ByuN needs to get damage done soon, as his economy is shattered by that counterattack. Feels like he trapped himself in a prison of his own design with those supply depots. But the fourth base and some queens going to be taken down. Microing back. Siege tanks. Big bites out of the Zergling. Dropping right back out again. The queen's getting further forward. Reinforcements coming across. Hydra's dropping them back for now. But the siege tank's doing so much damage. They've added so much to this fight. Finally. Well, actually, he doesn't clear it up. There's still a siege tank. Another attack to the north side. And Rogue does not have the army supply to deal with it consistently. He's starting a lurker den now. I feel like he forgot it. Adrenal glands on the way. But ByuN is keeping the pressure on. Looking be unstoppable right now. Another base under fire. Baneling's huge hits. The hatchery vulnerable. Swings back over to the right side. 2-2 is done now for Rogue, but the queens are exposed. Gun down. Hatchery will be next on the agenda. He should be able to target it outright, getting even more of the Zerglings. But Rogue committed so much to the counterattacks. He might not have enough at home to defend. And if he's not careful, he'll have no home to defend at all. The Hydras hold on. Somehow, the northern base lives. But at what cost? The +2 infantry weapons and armor completed. 4 lurkers on the way. ByuN, 87 army supply to 58. The lurkers are going to be very difficult to deal with. But the hatchery itself, he targets down 1 lurker egg. The banelings trying to roll in. Most of them not even getting close. The Hydras. Oh no. Hydra's just melting under the high velocity fire. Zergling counter. Again, finding success, but the hatchery is cut down before the lurkers can get in position to defend. 16 drones alongside it. 17 SCVs back at home. And ByuN just gonna dive on the lurkers with Marines. They're forced back. Transfuse on 1. Lurker range isn't completed. He finishes off 1 lurker. Rogue down to 100 supply. ByuN 121. He's taking the 4th base as well. He's taking up position outside the former 3rd. He's taking out the 4th. Rogue is running out of options. The lurkers are holding, but they're the only thing between him and disaster. And it's going to be very hard to get those lurkers across the map in this sort of position. He needs to do something, otherwise ByuN will just drown him under the weight of these Marines. Well, that is something. Maybe not what Rogue wanted, but ByuN claims victory with a decisive 2-0. I feel like ByuN, I don't know if it was intentionally, at least that mech build I feel like he was holding on to, waiting for this potential moment in GSL. But just a solid execution, well positioned, on point, and Rogue unable to keep up with the multi-pronged timing. So, Reynor with a victory over Maru. A huge victory for him. ByuN with a less of an upset, but still a strong victory over Rogue. A bit of Zerg and a bit of Terran, and hopefully a lot of good games this season of the Global StarCraft League. Hopefully it made your day just a little bit better. If you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. Thank you. Our mule tier patrons bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy Devin, Door Mario, Random Guy Suit, and everyone. And to everyone. Glad you enjoy. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.